All right, you guys, our next speaker, you might have seen him on the show Wives Swap. They came here in 2010 here in Fouke. Sounds a little unrelated, but that might be something that you would notice him from. In addition to that, this guy has traveled all over looking into some strange, fascinating, abnormal, and unusual places and phenomena from all over the country and even internationally as well. He's done a lot of great work, which he described as legend tripping, which you'll find out about here. And so consider all the different things that you've heard today so far from Jared, that you'll hear later on from David and Lyle and on the tour. Do some really interesting things that I think help paint a picture, give us something that gives us an overall view that there's a lot going on that's still very mysterious to us. So Rob's done a lot of great work to show that there are still things out there waiting to be discovered, and we need to go out and figure this stuff out, do what we can to get out there. And you're going to hear a lot about this great work he's done, legend tripping. So without further ado, the legend tripper himself, Rob Robinson.
Can everybody hear me? Because I got a big mouth. And I don't like using this. You know, my wife will testify to my big mouth, you know. Alright, so I'm going to put that there. Alright? So that's my nice cheesy little opening that I had a high school student drew up for me. You know, and I had it copyrighted, which whenever you ever do it, that's expensive. So, but that kid did that for me one day, and didn't he do an awesome job on that thing? I mean, I was, you know, I went ahead and paid him, just to, you know, the whole thing. He didn't take me to court down the road, you know. So. But anyway, like I said, legend tripping. That's my presentation. This is my narcissistic page, I call it. Where I put, you know, I served in the military for 21 years. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
To all you other veterans out there, bro. All right. I served as I was an airborne military policeman for 21. That means I jumped out of airplanes and wrote traffic tickets. Not in that order. I've had one kid say, "Well, you jumped out just to write traffic? God, you guys are your quota. I tell you." You know. But, you know, there's math guys, and this is one of my trips I did right after Wives Swap to come to Fouke. And it's funny because, you know, I'll get to the next one here, which I think it is. There we are. There's the old Wives Swap picture down there. I wouldn't say it was awesome doing that, but it's now it's like one of those mistakes you can't make go away. Because, you know, because ABC called me up later and said, well, you know, our episode's one of the popular episodes, so it's one of those mistakes that I'm a rerun now. And I get reminded. And then my kids at school say, "We saw you on Wives Swap." So, I also did Weird Florida with Charlie Carlson. Unfortunately, a gentleman passed away a couple of years. Great guy. He wrote this book, Weird Florida. Super nice guy, retired military. Robert Morgan, I got to meet him again. If you ever seen any of the old 70s Bigfoot movies, he's in them. You know, we all have a bucket list on people we wanted to meet, you know. He was one of them, and I got to finally sit down and talk with him. And I did an episode of Monsters and Mysteries of America where I went over an episode or a sighting that me and my son had. But the Wives Swap thing, it's kind of funny how that whole thing started, you know, because they came to me, they were looking for somebody who did it with their family. And I did. I used to drag my kids out to go do this stuff, you know. Mostly you get them off to playing the video games. They used to get under my skin, so I said, "You get in the car, we're going Bigfoot." You know? So I take them out there and stuff, and the word got back to ABC about me, and they called me. And when they first called me about, because I was a big fan of that TV show, Destination Truth with Josh Gates, you know what I'm talking about? And I said, "Oh man, I want to be Josh Gates." You know, and I told my wife, "Hey, they called us about doing this Wives Swap," and she had seen it, and she goes, "No, we're not doing this." I did that with a temper tantrum, and finally she just said, "All right, stop, I'm done. Fine, we'll do it. But I'm just telling you right now, you dads do not fare very well on this TV show. So don't come back and complain to me if you look like, you know, crap on this show." I said, "Okay." So I ran over to, I'm pretty much accurate how excited I was to do this. So I got over there, and I called him up, and I said, "Yeah, we're interested." And the first thing they do is they send a psychiatrist over to see you to make sure you're not crazy and you're going to, you know, take a knife out and chase after the, you know, camera. And then they sent over the director and the producer, and they sat down and we went over everything, and they said, hey, if you had an opportunity to go anywhere in the United States to do a Bigfoot hunt, where would it be? I said, Fouke, Arkansas. Right there, Fouke, Arkansas. I said, it is my Graceland. And they said, well, that's a bit cheesy saying that, but okay. So anyway, we got a call later on, we're going to do it, so we started, and then we filmed a little bit in Florida, which I'm going to tell you right now, there is no such thing as reality TV, which I learned really quickly. So when you watch this episode and you see me out in the woods, we're up the road from my house. And the sad part is, we were trying to film and these kids kept coming through with ATVs. And here I am like, come on, we're looking for bacon. And the guy, what are you guys doing? Making a mayonnaise commercial? Where's the mayonnaise? You know, so, and then of course, Tracy got to come to Fouke, Arkansas. I didn't get to come, which really, you know, because when we got to meet up and stuff, and my wife said, I was in Fouke, Arkansas. Really? So, and they said we were going to try and go, but we ended up not going. So we ended up going to some park in Little Rock to film if you'll watch it, we do a little music video at the end of it. And I put a Bigfoot costume on, and the family we're with they have a rap star, Little Chris. And just for the record, very nice family. I mean, you know, and the family, you know, and let me tell you how they do that. They'll come up to me and say, hey Rob, what do you think about Andrea and her whole son doing that rap thing and stuff? I said, well, I think it's kind of a waste of money. Hold that thought. Andrea, come here. Now Rob, tell Andrea what you just said. You know? And I said, I think what you're doing with your son is kind of a waste of money. You know? And he said, oh, we ain't feeling it, Rob. We ain't feeling it. You know? You gotta get, Andrea, I think what you're doing with that kid is just it's, you know, crap. And the first time we started doing it, she kept crying. You won't see it on the show, but Robert doesn't talk to me like that, you know? And finally, the director had to get to a point where he said, you know, Rob's not going to hit you. He's not going to get in your space. So in our house, we have one of those kitchen islands. So if I thought we were going to get into an argument, I would go around the other side of just to give us that space. The problem was, the sound girl was laying on the ground with the sound booth. And if I said, and she goes, yeah, well, I think Bigfoot's stupid. Oh, yeah? Step over the leg. Yeah? Don't hit me with that. Anyway. And then the stupid batteries would always go out in the camera. You know, I'm saying, Andrea, you have no right. Rob, stop. Battery. And all right, pick it up. And you know how you make jokes about people. What's my motivation? Why was I mad? But anyway, it was fun. But it's, you know, I got to a point where me and the the producer were married. As you see in the back, I have a hovercraft. And that was my Achilles heel. I had I owned that thing for 10 years. I rebuilt it. And that was my thing. And the whole time, they were going to sell it on. Yeah. And I was on the on guard, but it said in the contract I didn't have to agree to anything. I mean, if they said something I didn't like, so I said, I ain't selling that hovercraft. So, one time I thought they were going to do it. I was sitting out, my son and her were doing a scene inside, so they kicked me outside. And you can't see it, but to the left there's a basketball hoop over there, all right? But anyway, I was sitting down there, and this car drove up. And this guy, Phil, shows up. Well, Phil works at the airport because my hovercraft has an airplane engine in it, all right? And the problem is my hovercraft, whenever it breaks, it's always $500 when I had to get this thing fixed. I mean, I would just show up with the hovercraft and go, $500. Dude, I ain't told you what's wrong with it yet. I don't care, it's $500. You know? But anyway, he shows up and I said, what are you doing here, Phil? He goes, oh, I'm here to buy your hovercraft. I go, what? So I turned around and I ran in there and I kicked open the door. And I can't say it, we got little kids here, but I did not use the appropriate language when I went in there. So anyway, they said, well, calm down, Rob, calm down. I said, no, I ain't doing the show no more. This is it, I'm done. So they walked me outside, and then the producer, you can't see on this side, they put an RV on the other side. She comes running over, because they're all mic'd up. Whenever you do something, they always know what you're doing, because they're all mic'd up. And she came running over, she goes, what's going on there? And the guy said, well, I'm Phil. I think I talked to you on the phone. I'm here to buy the hovercraft. He goes, no. I said, if we were to sell it, would you buy it? He goes, He goes, that's not what you said. I went, so the director said, calm down, Rob, you're not going to sell it. So if you watch a scene, the only part of that scene you're going to see me, you see me walk up to the mailbox and take it. That's the end of that, part of it. Because there's a lot they did not put in it. I mean, a whole bunch, I mean, me and my wife had 6 kids altogether. We're a blended family. Unfortunately, her ex-husband would not allow her kid, refused to sign the paperwork for her kids to be on it. All right? So, and my 2 oldest sons were in the military. Okay? So anyway, just to give you a little thing about it. The reason I say it because, it was filmed here in Fouke.
Rob, you've got a great voice. Some people in the back still can't hear you though. Any way you can use the mic?
Okay. How's that? I should actually be happy about that. That I don't have a big mouth, all right? So I apologize. What did I do? Okay. This is my books I wrote. So a lot of you come up to my table and stuff. Legend tripping. I came up with the idea, which I'll go into a little bit more. Is that the reason I got into, I was more of a monster hunter starting off. Bigfoot, Fouke Monster, skunk ape. And my wife was into the paranormal. She was a ghost hunter. But she didn't want to be called a monster hunter, and I didn't want to be called a ghost hunter. All right? Because it's just the way it is. But I heard the term legend tripping, and plus we do the UFO thing. We're both part of MUFON. So I came up with that, and Charlie Carlson told me one day when I was giving a presentation, he said, you need to write that on paper. All right? So I did, and the first book, unfortunately, you may find it out there, was a disaster. It turned more into here's what you're doing wrong as a parent. You need to go legend tripping. And what happened was, it missed the mark. And then David Hatcher Childress, have you folks ever seen the movie Ancient Aliens, or TV show Ancient Aliens? David's gray hair, goatee, and he talks like this. I'm glad David's not here to hear me say that. Because that's how I get the phone call, it rings, hi Robert. I'm like, oh God, what now? Listen. Yeah, okay. But anyway, he got a hold of the book and said, Rob, I like your book, but you missed the mark. Let's redo it. So we redid it, came up with Legend Tripping, the Ultimate Adventure. Sold real well. And then later on he called me up and said, hey, your book did real good. What are you going to do for an encore? And I went, an encore? He said, yeah, a second book. I went, I never thought about that. He goes, well, you think about it, give me a call before the end of the day. That's how David is. David's So anyway, I was sitting there thinking, well, what's bigger than legend tripping in the United States? The world. So I said, how about international legend tripping? So I started researching out the legends, which I found out that this whole Bigfoot phenomenon isn't just the United States or Canada. I mean, there are legends, stories of these animals all over the place. I mean, you got the Yeti, you got the Yowie down in Australia, you got the Yeren in China, which the Chinese government totally, acknowledges they have this animal there. So, I was really surprised. In fact, it got to a point where he actually had to cut me off. He said, Rob, when are you going to be finished with the book? I said, well, I'll keep going and going. He said, well, send me what you got. And I sent it to him, and he said, all right, you need to stop now. Let's take what we got here, and let's just put it in there, because I just kept finding more stuff and stuff, especially haunted places, And let me tell you, Arkansas's got some great haunted places, which you'll see here in a minute. I mean, some really good stuff here. And some other legends you may not know about. But I've also written for other magazines that you can see there. So, a little quick overview. What is legend tripping? This is what Wikipedia writes down. Basically, it's an adolescent behavior of teenagers breaking into a building. Do a Scooby hunt. That's how they're basically written. That's not what it is. Participate in an investigation and investigate a legend. It can be in your area, or it can be one that you want to go look at. All right? Here we got the Fouke Monster, the legend of Blocky Creek. All right? This is how I got into it. Yes, I know all of you like the same thing happened. I can give you the same story. 1974, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. My dad took me and my brother and my mom to the drive-in to go see a double feature, all right? And didn't even know why we drove up. I looked up Legend of the Boggy, didn't give it much of a, you know. And then we got in, my brother and my dad said, hey, take your brother, go get some popcorn. So we got up there and we passed the poster. And I was like, what the heck? And then, this is a true story. I'm like, huh. Now, mind you, I'm 10 years old, all right? So we get back and this movie comes on, and then you see the hunter come out and it walks down there. I mean, he jumps up and then walks away. You know, this hairy monster's out there? And then, of course, it gets to the end. And he goes, yeah, he's still out there. He's still out there. To this day, folks, I don't remember what that second movie was that came on. I just kept thinking, you know, this hairy creature's out there. And then on the way home, I kept thinking, what if that thing is like South Arkansas in my backyard right now? What if it knows I watched the movie about it and it's waiting for me? But grant you, I'm a 10 years old, you know, and all got all kinds of weird crap going through my head. So I get home, my dad said, take the dog out, go to the bathroom with him. So I grabbed my little brother, because I could run faster than my little brother. I'm sure this really happened. I'm not making this up. And I said, come on, Tim, let's go out there. I said, Tim, go make sure that back gate's locked. You know? Because I figured, you know, my folks are young. They can have more kids. Just to let you know, we lived in an apartment complex in the middle of Hattiesburg. So, I mean, you know, the chances of that creature being there. And, of course, The Exorcist. How many people seen The Exorcist? I snuck in to go see that. 12 years old, me and a friend snuck into it because, you know, we couldn't get into it, you know. So we snuck in, waiting, you know, the back exit, got in the back, waited for the lights to cut off, went and sat down in the front row, you know. And I got to that movie and I'm just like, wow, this movie's rough. You know, my whole appetite was gone and I was just like, you know, we were leaving, me and Tommy, and we're walking out and I hear this couple in front of me going, yeah, it's based on a true story. Happened to a 12-year-old little boy. Like, Tommy, we're 12 years old. And Tommy goes, no, I'm 12 and a half. I'm too old. You, on the other hand, you're going to get possessed. So I got home and I couldn't tell my folks because we had snuck into the theater. But I went in their room. I'm like, my room kind of looks like that little girl's. You know, and I laid down in the bed and I said, did my bed move? Yeah, it moved. And I figured I went and slept on the floor in my brother's room. Because I figured if the devil makes the floor move, everybody's going to be aware of what's going on. And no lie, my mom had to get a chaplain, because I'm a military brat, to come over and convince me that I was not going to get possessed. And I said, could you just do a quick one, just to make sure? Because I've been getting in trouble a lot lately, and maybe, you know, not me. And he's, no, you're just a stupid 12-year-old little boy. You're fine. But anyway, that was the month that kind of got me interested in that stuff. You know, Boggy Creek, I mean, who hasn't, you know? I mean, everybody I talk to, you know, somebody will bring that up when we're talking. You ever seen The Legend of Boggy Creek? Yes, I have. I mean, I bought it when it first came on VHS. You know, so when I went deployed, I always had a copy of The Legend of Boggy Creek with me. And of course, you know, other things. Some of you old timers my age, you know, looking up here, Johnny Quest and all this other stuff. Yeah, yeah, it was. That's the Leonard Nimoy, and that's the producer Alan Landsberg, if you're interested in that. Well, what that picture is there. This is one of the first books that I read and got into it. Another one was Ivan T. Sanderson's The Abominable Snowman. But that one, definitely, because of that book, I went and did my first legend trip looking for Momo in Missouri. We went out there, because I lived in Kansas at the time, all right? And there ain't nothing in Kansas. I mean, that idea about, you know, people say people sit around and watch cars rust in Kansas, that's not too bad, you know? Because I'd walk there, people are like, what are you looking at the car for? Thinking rust. That's true. So anyway, I told my friends about this. Hey, let's go over to Louisiana and Missouri, and let's go look for Momo. Well, being high school kids, we didn't really plan this one out very well. We thought it was going to be a day trip. When we got there, we realized we had to stay overnight. We didn't bring any provisions and all that stuff. And the town really wasn't that open for the whole Momo thing. I think we got a lady at the library to kind of fill us in and tell us where we went, to go look. But my friends were kind of bummed, a little irritated at me, not knowing it was going to be where it was going to be, and But it was, that was my first legend trip, and it was actually kind of an eye-opener. Different types of legends. We talk about cryptids. John Keel. Every legend tripper out there, including the gentleman in the back, know who John Keel is. He wrote, his famous one was the Mothman prophecies. But he made this statement: no matter where you live on this planet, someone within 200 miles of your home has had a direct confrontation with a frightening apparition, unexplainable monster within the last generation. Actually, you can almost say not even 200, 100 there. Because, I mean, that's really surprising how many reports I'm getting in Florida of just a skunk ape. Not too far from where I live. Now, I went ahead and redid mine, and I included some of Arkansas's cryptids. Like, we got the White River Monster. We got the Fouke Monster, of course, which, nobody in here knows what the Fouke Monster is, right? But the Goro. Has anybody ever heard of the Goro? Back in the, I'll probably get this wrong on the date, in a town called Self, Arkansas, Self, S-E-L-F, a farmer had on his property, a rancher, a cave, and at the back of this cave went down into a big, huge pit that he couldn't find, and he tried to find the bottom of this pit. Well, down the road, and they would hear weird noises coming out of it. And what ended up happening was his son lost the dog, and they thought the dog maybe had fallen down the hole. So they went ahead and they put a tire down there, lowered a tire, and they felt something, pulling on it, pulled it up, and the tire was in shreds. So he said, I'm going to go on down there and see what's going on. He went down and they heard him screaming. They pulled him up. His hair was stark white, and he had gone crazy. All right. Now there is a movie, a 1972 movie called Encounter with the Unknown. All right. I can't show a picture because people on it wouldn't let me put a picture up. Okay. But you can find it on. I think it may even been on YouTube. It's called Encounter with the Unknown. It's narrated by Rod Sterling, the guy from the Twilight Zone. And it consists of 3 stories. Well, the second story is the story of the Goro. Now, they do mess it up a little bit by combining it with the legend of the Mammoth Cave in Missouri. Okay? They'll say that steam's coming out of it and all that stuff, but it never did. All right? But if you do type in the Goro, there's a couple sites. In fact, the gentleman that did that drawing has done a lot of research on it. It's a really neat legend. And unfortunately, Self, Arkansas it's a hard place to find. I've never been to it, I'll be honest. It's on my bucket list. So eventually I hope to get to it. But the other one, Public Monster, that's up in Kentucky. It's up by a bridge. When I was up at Fort Knox doing the Army stuff, we went over to go look at it. But we weren't going on the bridge because it's an active railroad bridge. Lizard Man down in South Carolina. Of course, the Mothman. Beast of Bray Road, the Skunk Ape. That's my neck of the woods. I'm from Florida. You guys haven't figured that out yet. And I do a lot of legend tripping with the skunk ape. In fact, Florida is number 3 with Bigfoot sightings in the nation. Do you know that? Number 3. In fact, California is a little upset about this. We should be number 3. All right, but Oregon and Washington are 1 and 2, but we're number 3. Of course, you got a Flatwoods Monster up in Kentucky, Champ, Bigfoot, and the Dover Demon up in Massachusetts. I give that one up for Lauren Coleman, the Dover Demon. Haunted places. The Crescent Hotel. You ever heard of that? That's the most haunted hotel here in Arkansas. It's the top of my wife's bucket list to do paranormal investigations, which I understand they do that. All right? Lighthouses. Every lighthouse in Florida is haunted. Did you know that? It's kind of funny, too, because when we went to Savannah, they got a lot of haunted walks and stuff in Savannah. Well, we went to this, my wife's an antiquer. We went to this antique store, and we were in there, I asked the guy, I said, hey, do you is this place haunted? He goes, oddly enough, no. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you know, half these places were never haunted for about 5 years ago, and then somebody realized there's money to be made, and all of a sudden we're now haunted, you know? So I said, really? He goes, yeah, go back about 10 years and look at the haunted places, and you'll see what's really haunted here in Florida. We got Robert the Doll down in the Keys, which they say if you take your picture with it without asking his permission, bad things will happen to you. Yes, I did ask his permission. I was on the vacation in the Keys. I didn't need anything bad happening. And the Carbon County Jail up in Pennsylvania, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's an old jail. It's now a museum. If you go in one of the cells, there's a handprint on the wall. The handprint. Back in the day, 1800, they had a group called the Molly Maguires. Irish, they used to work. Irish immigrants. They used to work in the coal mines there. Well, they started rebelling and they started causing terrorist attacks on the railroad. Anyway, they got captured, and one of the guys before he was hung said, "To prove my innocence, my handprint will never leave, and it's still up there to this day." And you can go and see it. Now, if you do go up there, they do not do any tours in the summertime. I mean, in the wintertime. All right, but the summertime, and they will not let you take a picture of it. They'll let you look at it, but you can't take a picture. All right. Oddly enough, they let me use this for the slideshow, and they let me put it in my book. You like that little Spanish treasure cave, which is on the border of Arkansas and Missouri. Yeah, I do a little bit of treasure thing. You know, I'll be honest with you, I've run into a lot of snags when it comes to treasure hunting. A lot of rules, a lot of laws out there about treasure hunting. Florida has the worst. You know, there's a lot of people who find stuff and never say anything because Florida's gonna say, "That's art, buddy." Of course, the famous one is Oak Island. You know, my dad has been up there. I've never been there. I have been to Lost Dutchman. Well, I've been to the Superstition Mountains. I can't say I've been in the mine. All right. But here, also in Florida, you guys also have Jesse James' treasure that's supposedly still out there somewhere here in Arkansas that people are still looking for. So, UFO legends. Roswell. I've been out to Roswell. When I was in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Bliss. A buddy of mine grew up in Roswell, and he took me out there. And when we got out there, he said, "I'm going to take you to where these places go." Because a lot of times when you get out there, there's people that will take you to some spot and say, "This is where it crashed. $10, please." Because I'll tell you right now, the Roswell sites are on private property. So, Crescent Ghost Hill, that's here in Arkansas. Ghost lights. We'll see it in the back of the, we'll go out there at night and see these ghost lights and stuff. I took my wife out to a place up in South Carolina called the Brown Mountain Lights. You ever hear of those, the Brown Mountain Lights? And you know, to get out there, to go up there, we were on our way up to the, Ohio to do the Mothman Festival. And luckily I had a Jeep. Because, I mean, to get up there, it was like, you know, we got up to the place where you're supposed to observe them. And when we got up there was a Prius. You know, here I tell my wife, "The good thing we have the Jeep, sweetheart. We've never made it up here." Get up there, and my wife said, "There's a Prius right there." And 2 guys. I said, "How did you get up here?" You know, that way. And I got there's another way up there. But lo and behold, this is 9 o'clock at night, and my wife is in no mood for, just going up there and nothing. Thank God the lights came out. Because she even told me, she said, "I don't see something tonight. I am pushing you off this cliff." Luckily, the Brown Mountain Lights came out. But here in Arkansas, you got the Crescent Ghost Lights. So, and it's on railroads, so mostly the story goes like a lot of them. The conductor lost his head, and he's got a lantern, and he's out there looking for it. So, how does a headless go? Like you bump into things. There's a Brown Mountain Lights there. Now, that's not our picture. I want to be honest. I took that off another one. All right. But anyway, just another locations and stuff. This is famous legend trippers out there. One thing I get asked the most is, "What's your scariest thing that ever happened to you when you've been out there legend tripping?" And I'll tell you. On our way up to South Carolina, on our way up to the Mothman Festival, we were going to, we stopped in South Carolina. You know, my wife had to go to the bathroom because there was a Hardee's. So I pulled into the Hardee's. And I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of Hardee's. All right? So I was sitting in the lobby playing on my phone, and she's in the bathroom. And I hear the bum, 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 a motorcycle. You know, I'm not paying much attention to it. And then I kind of feel the door open, and all of a sudden here's, who's got that yellow Jeep with Bigfoot on it? Which is my Jeep. And I turn around, and in the doorway is the biggest biker dude I have ever seen in my life. I mean, he looked pissed. So I'm looking at him, and I'm like, oh, screw this. I know somebody say, like, why didn't you know, how big was he? This is the kind of guy you mess with when you have a death wish in life. You know, like, I can't find a building to jump off. I'll just go screw with this biker dude, you know? So anyway, I go back to you, and he starts walking around the restaurant and goes up to people. Man, is that your yellow Jeep out there? No, that's not your yellow Jeep. And then he goes up, hey, you behind the counter, is that your yellow Jeep? I said, no, I don't know. You know? And I'm just like, you know? Then my wife comes walking out. My wife's from Philadelphia, or right near. She walks up to me and she goes, what's going on? Why's that guy over there yelling? He's asking about our Jeep. She goes, it's our Jeep, is there a problem? And I'm like, Chrissy! And he come walking up and he's just looking down at it. Is that your Jeep? No, and I was trying to look as dignified and as manly as I could, but I know I looked. I know that's how I look, you know? Yeah, that's my Jeep. You know? He goes, I saw Bigfoot back in '76, Mississippi. You know, we were on the railroad tracks, and everybody was so happy that I was on that Jeep. You could just, you know? And I'm just sitting there, you know, listening to him. And some lady next to us, like, you know, listening in on, and they said, yeah, we on railroad tracks, and we saw a walk across the street on the tracks. We got up there, and that sucker tried to reach out and grab me. And the lady goes, sir, you could have been killed. Oh, yes, ma'am, I could have been killed. So, what are you here in South Carolina for? Are you here looking for Bigfoot? I said, no, we're on the way to Mothman. That's why I wrote a book. And so, oh, you wrote Bigfoot? You got Bigfoot in your book? I said, yeah, got buy one? Sure, if you want. You know, I mean, I didn't expect it. So we go out to the Jeep. And I pull out a book, and he's like, how much does the book cost? He said, $15. Oh, it's gone to 20. And you know, the little angel and the devil. The angel's like, just let him have it. You know, and the devil's like, no, General, you gotta get that $20. You know? So I just said, you know, he said, I'll tell you what, you sign it, I'll let you make it $20. I'm like, okay, that's good. So I signed it, and sure enough, we take pictures of me, little old me, next to gigantic him, next to the Jeep, you know. And then the manager was walking out, are you selling books? I'm going to jail. Now I'm going to jail. I am never going to make it, you know. And I said, I didn't think, you know, man, I didn't think it was a problem selling one book, you know. I mean, can I buy one? So I would tell people that's one of the scariest things that ever happened. So. Now, I don't know any of these people up here. I simply went through the internet, I looked around, and their names seemed to come up. So, you know, maybe you guys might know some of them. You know, the guy up in the middle with the black hat. Oddly enough, Ken Gerhardt is in the area. All of them outstanding authors. You know, I tell you, I think it's an honor that I know all of them. You know, I mean, I'm tooting my horn here, but it's nice, you know. And I've sat down and had some awesome conversations with all of them at one time or another. In fact, David Weatherly invited me to write on Woodknocks. I got to do the, in Woodknocks Volume 3, he invited me to do the chapter on the skunk ape on that. So, a little fiction here, because sometimes I give this presentation to younger kids, you know, and a lot of them, you know, Tom Sawyer, believe it or not, was a treasure hunter. You know, if you ever read the original books and stuff. And the Three Investigators, I used to read the Three Investigators. I mean, I thought, you know, I did enjoy reading them. And this book here, The Mystery of Monster Mountain, there's a Bigfoot in it. And it actually is a real Bigfoot. It's not a guy in a costume. So, you know, because back in the, you know, the days of Scooby-Doo was always somebody in a costume. Yeah. You know, and of course Indiana Jones, and now you all know they're making a new Indiana Jones movie. So, World's greatest legend trip. I never get an argument on this one. You know? I never get an argument on this one. And oddly enough, when I did my book, Warner Brothers would not allow me to put a picture of him in my book. And Lucasfilm would not let me put the Goonies or Indiana Jones. I'm allowed to talk about it, I just would not allow to. Because you know, if there's no money in it for them, they're not going to let you do it. So, TV shows that are out there, and there's more and more coming out, you know. Mountain Monsters, oh. You ever watch that show? Oh my God! When we did the Mothman, the gentlemen from the Mountain Monsters were there, and they had invited us to come up to the hotel after the whole thing was, and they were tanked, all drinking moonshine. And then of course you have Wild Bill, and he's just like, "Oh man, you got a pretty wife. Oh man, I'd love to hug. Can I hug your wife?" And my wife's going. You know, so we had to quickly say, well, we'll see you guys in the morning. Are you sure? You know, but I mean, super nice guys. I will say this much for them. I really, you know, they really enjoy doing what they're doing. They really do. They really haven't taken it for granted. Finding Bigfoot, you know, they've been here a numerous times. You all know them and stuff. When I came down to Florida, they called me up and asked me to come out because, you know, they do interviews of people with sightings and they pick the sightings to put on the show. So they asked me because they had a lot of people down there. And, you know, that's what I tell people. I can sometimes pick out a bogus story versus a real story. All right? And I know the other investigators will back will testify. When people really see this thing, it is a life-changing event. I mean, people, when they see, they can tell you stuff they did all day. It's amazing. I had one lady, when I was interviewing, said she was driving home one night at midnight, and she said this thing came walking across the road. She pulled over, and she got out of the car to see where it went down into the woodline. And I said, "Well, you by yourself?" "Oh, yeah, I'm by myself." I said, "Did you have a gun or anything?" "Oh, no, I don't carry a gun." So you got out of your car, from big black shape, from walking across and just walked down that. And I said, "I don't believe you. Because I sure as hell wouldn't get out of that car." You know? I said, you know, and she's like, "You call me a liar?" I said, "I'm not calling you anything. I'm just saying, I can't see anybody in normal do that." So we went out there, and what happened was I got out, so I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to look and see what the heck was going on. And I walked around, and then all of a sudden, I hear this, "Hey, you over there," and I look over, and there's a guy standing by a barbed wire fence. I said, "Yes, sir." He goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was looking. Some lady said she saw something." She said, "She may have saw my cows that got out the other night." So I think what it is, a shot of one of the cows. But anyway, but it's just her attitude, you know. I mean, I just, like I said, I had a lady, Crystal River, all right, that's north of Tampa. And what happened, I was out with another guy, and we had come in that morning to the restaurant called the, what was this? Treasure Camp. That's the name of this restaurant, called Treasure Camp. Because there's legend has it, there's buried pirate treasure out there. We sat down, and the manager came up and said, "You know, you guys may want to go talk to that couple over there. I think they may have seen something." Because we told her who we were earlier and what we were out doing. So I look over, and this couple, middle-aged couple, both in camouflage, and the lady's just going off on her husband. She said, "You should never have let me go out." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Look, baby, calm down. People are looking, you know. And my friend, you know, Eric's like, "I don't know, man. You know, she don't look too happy." I said, "What do we got to lose? The most she's gonna tell us is you don't want to talk to us." I said, "So I'll walk up to her." I said, "How you doing, ma'am? My name's Robert Robinson." I was telling her, she said, "They said you may have saw a Bigfoot." She goes, "I told you." She stood up there, "I told you it was a Bigfoot. I told you." And she burst out crying. Well, anyway, what had happened, and it took us a while to get the story because she was very emotional, is that her husband took her out, her first hunting trip out into a swamp, put her in a tree stand, and left her, and then he went to another tree stand. She fell asleep. She woke up to feel something tugging on the ladder, looked down and saw this large, hairy, man-like creature looking up at her. She said she looked at it, looked at her, but she didn't really know how long. She said it felt like it was forever, but she said it's probably just a couple seconds. And then she just started screaming for her husband. And she said this, I said, and she said, then it just walked off. I said, it didn't run off or anything. She said, it just walked off casually. I said, was it big and huge? He said, oh, it was actually, they said, very lean. It was a very lean looking thing. It looked like a Bigfoot that had gotten himself in good shape. It had reddish hair and it had a very human-looking face, you know, which I caught on. And of course, I said, you know, can you show us where this happened? Are you crazy? You know? So I said, well, can you tell us where it happened? So we tried to piece together where we think it happened. We went out there, and I don't think we have it because we didn't find the tree stand. But do I believe this lady? Absolutely. I mean, she told the details she was putting into it. And not to mention, she never veered off of her story. Most people, and I learned this as a military policeman, cannot tell a lie 3 times straight without screwing it up. Because when something happens, the truth, there is no doubt about it in your mind what you saw. You know? So, anyway, that's, see what else here. Oh, that's what track there. We had a legend back in the 30s when they found these tracks in Clearwater on the beach. They found them in various spots. And word got out there was a monster out there. Okay? Then it got word there was a giant penguin walking around out there. And that's Ivan T. Sanderson. He's probably considered one of the first cryptozoologists, okay? Later, we found out that there was a guy out there pranking. All right? Well, he passed away, and his son had the prints, and I went out, his son's a dentist, and I went out there, and he let me make a casting of it, but that's me holding the actual prints right there. I consider that one of the funny things, you know, the people that prank people. No harm was done, but it was just kind of funny about it. Now, this is a Bigfoot sighting, okay? I'm going to hit the button here in a minute. 2012, a gentleman came into my classroom and said, hey, Thanksgiving morning I was in a tree stand out in the Green Swamp. Okay, the Green Swamp is located east of Orlando. All right? Not that far from Orlando. In fact, it's not that far from Disney. All right? It's a big, huge watershed area. In fact, all of it hasn't been fully explored, okay? He was sitting up there Thanksgiving morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, and he was playing on his cell phone, and all of a sudden he caught movement off to him, and he saw something come walking across the field. Well, he looked over at it, and at first he thought it's another hunter. But it was moving so fluidly through the palmetto field right here. And he just kind of looked at it. Now, he said he heard stories of the skunk ape before. You know, I mean, in the back of his mind, he knew about it, but he didn't really believe it. So the thing got up to the center where I'm standing, and it just stopped, and he said it was sniffing the air. Well, he took his cell phone and started filming it. And he said, just as he started filming it, the thing turned around and looked right up at him. And he said he kind of went, boom, you know, things looking at him, and he didn't know if it was going to come charging at him or, you know. So he stopped filming and put his hand on his gun, and he said the thing just took off and ran in the woods. He said he'd never seen anything do that guy. So this is the video right here. It's not good quality because, you know, gentleman like 6 o'clock in the morning, and he didn't anticipate to see anything. And he's kind of kept himself below the radar. He's never wanted to go on TV and all that. And he lets me show the video, but I can't make a copy and give it to anyone. Okay? So you can just barely see it. See it standing there? I know it's really hard to see because again, it's in there at 6 o'clock in the morning. There is some, you know, mist going on in the field and stuff. You want to see it again? Yes. Yeah. All right. Oops. Back up. Okay, here we go. You just see it standing up. He said it was really tall and thin. Now, it took him 2 weeks to get, I mean, his son told me it messed with him really bad. I mean, when he got home, he went to his room and laid down. I mean, it really, you know, got him. And then finally, his son talked him into come talk and see me. And it took us another week to get him to take me out there. Okay, so we got out to the field. That's my wife sitting on the tree stand taking my picture. All right, just to give you an idea of how tall this thing is out there. Okay, so, and there's been other sightings in the green swamp. It's, you know, I'm going to say probably Ocala in Florida is the big area where there's been a lot more sightings than others. But we have sightings in, all over the place in Florida. And if anybody tells you that the animal is like 6 foot tall, it's a lot taller than 6 foot tall. It's about, it averages about 8 feet. Okay, so now we were out there one time at the green swamp, me and my wife, and I had set up a trail camera. All right, so I went to retrieve it, and I took her with me. She's sitting in the Jeep, so I went over to get it, and right next to the property there's private property, and there's some barbed wire. Well, I'm getting the trail camera, and then I hear some snorting going on. So I take my flashlight and I'm flashing it around, you know, nothing. So I'll go back to getting my trail camera, and again I start hearing movement. So this time I go up to the fence, and I start, you know, with the flashlight, nothing. So I go back, and all of a sudden, just as I'm starting to walk away, I hear the snort again. I turn the light around, and all of a sudden I see these two eyes, glowing eyes looking at me. Well, my wife says I made a really unmanly scream as I fell back. And that's what... Just for the record, those are zombie ninja cows, extremely dangerous. You know, they will kill you, so that's what I heard. I thought those stupid things had bells around their necks or something, you know. I mean, it got right up to the next to me, but I couldn't, you know. I mean, a cow of all things got right up there, you know. Because I tell this story because people, you know, about other animals out there. All hear a cow. No, I don't want a cow, you know. And my wife just let you know she was laughing in the Jeep. You know, I'm sitting there, oh my God, cow. But anyway. We do make it a family thing. And I had a gentleman write me when I was doing one of Charlie's things. He said, you know, I want to go hunt, I want to go fishing with my son, but he just wants to stay home and just look at video games and doesn't want to do anything else. I said, well, next time you go out, just say, hey son, let's go on a Bigfoot hunt. You know, go out camping and stuff, and you know, in the daytime go fishing. You know, at night, but you're going to have to take him a walk around and do a real Bigfoot, because otherwise now you're lying for not hanging over. But he wrote me back later and said it worked. I mean, him and his son go fishing, and at night they go look for Bigfoot. You know, and the good thing about Florida, they're seen all over the place. You know, except in Disney World. But believe it or not, Disney property butts up against. And there's a bunch of Disney property that has not even been used yet. Yeah. See, there's some of the stuff that me and the family have done, you know. My son up top left, he was mad because we had gotten lost. These are pyramids in Pennsylvania. Pyramids. Yeah. And there's my wife and me on a ghost hunt. Yeah, I go on ghost hunts. I'm not a good ghost hunter. I tend to fall asleep after we set the camera down. It's mad. We did go one where there was supposedly a ghost of a naked lady. I stayed away for that one. We didn't see that. That was a source of argument. She goes, oh, you stay away from this one, huh? No, honey, I'm just being professional. It is a different places that you can go. Now, if you're ever in Georgia, they got Expedition Bigfoot. And there is a Fouke Monster exhibit in there. Just to let you know. Cryptozoology Museum up there, up in Maine, which is getting bigger and bigger. Lauren Coleman runs that. Museum of the Weird, I know you folks know that one. That's here in, that's in Austin, Texas. The UFO Museum, that's brand new actually. The Mothman Museum, and of course you got, that is the, you ever seen that movie, The Conjuring? Yeah. Those, that couple I just drew a blank on their name. That's their home. And that's Abigail. That's what the real Abigail looks like. It's a Raggedy Ann doll. Annabelle? Of course, Hasbro, who owns the Raggedy Ann, refused to let them use it in the movie, so they had to come up with a scary doll for the movie. But we've met them. Am I going over time?
No, we're just going to let everyone know that if you're signed up for the 12:30 tour, that's about to start. So we get people who are signed up for the 12:30 tour,
Okay.
outside.
All right, here's some places you also. MUFON also does investigate Bigfoot sightings too. In fact, that's why I joined MUFON, to be honest with you. All right? The VRFO, probably one of the best websites out there where people are always contributing. Only problem with VRFO is sometimes they put in, I mean, they don't, some of the sightings I have known that were bogus, they still put on them. All right, so. Ripley still has a place. Actually, back in 76, Ripley's had a museum in Gatlinburg, Tennessee called World of the Unexplained. Did any of you folks ever hear of that place? In Gatlinburg, Tennessee? And they had a Bigfoot museum, display in that. But unfortunately, it knuckled under and they got rid of it. But I think there's a subway there now. This is one place I always tell people when it comes to ghost hunting. I know some of you places are looking at. This house here, the Harry Packer house, which is in Pennsylvania, was the model they used to make the Haunted Mansion in Disney World. Oddly enough, it's not haunted. Doesn't it look like a haunted place, you know? And they do a murder thing, it's a bed and breakfast. But the reason I say that, not every place is haunted. Not every place has a Bigfoot. Not every place, so just gotta do your research, I mean, you walk out in the woods and say, I think Bigfoot could be here, Hey, the funny thing about that, I had a scientist one time tell me this when we were talking about Bigfoot. He said, there's nothing in science saying these animals cannot exist. He says, but we just, we just need you to found it for us. And I'm one of those people that doesn't believe in shooting and killing a Bigfoot. That's just me. All right? Now, that's not to say that if I walk around in the woods, I'll find a dead Bigfoot, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to put it in the back of my truck, find the first Wendy's I can, because Wendy's got these gigantic, I'm going to get them put in the freezer, call Lyle, call Jeff Muldrow. So get over here real quick and see this thing before the government takes it away from me. Do's and don'ts equipment. I think when I got to go in Ripley's warehouse. Ripley's, believe it or not, is headquartered in Orlando. And their warehouse looks like at the end of the Indiana Jones movie, all these crates and stuff back there. And I went back there one time. In fact, I won a bet with one of the guy's assistants that they didn't have a Bigfoot statue back there. But anyway, that's one of their many vampire kits they have. Equipment now. You guys have all heard the equipment thing. I don't really need to be, I can tell you some fun, I went out with this one group, and these boys, I think, were from California. And I walked up on them, and they were trying to start a fire. And they had these 3 big logs together with a big lighter, And I walked up to them, and I said, what are you guys doing? Dude, we're trying to start a fire, man. So I said, okay. And I walked in, they're like, man, I smell some cat. What's going on? And I said, can I help you guys? Yeah, man, sure. So I said, move the logs out of the way. Let's get some sticks. Let's get some small stuff. Give me some stuff here. And I pulled out a ferro rod, and they're just like, wow. And I got it going and said, dude, you're like a fire god, man. And then when I took them out on the trails in Florida, I don't know how it is in Arkansas, but all the trails are marked with these little orange squares that you'll see on trees randomly, so you know that you're not going to get lost. So I went out there and I took them there, and I could look up with the with the red lens, I could see it. And these guys thought I was like, he goes, dude, you're like a Daniel Blue man, you don't ever get lost, And I'm just, should I let them think that? Should I let them think I'm awesome out here, or should I tell them the truth? I finally came clean. I said, I'll be honest with you guys, I'm following these squares up there. Oh, is that what that was? You thought you had a gang thing going on out here. Putting gang symbols on your trees. But anyway, this is some of the equipment that we use when I go out. That's my wife, and of course the treasure hunting equipment. I try to go as light as I can, but I always make sure that I've seen people take crap out there that they don't ever use. I went out with a radio station. One guy went dressed as a ninja. I kid you not. He had a full ninja, and he got in a tree that night because he was, the skunk came walking up. He was going to jump down with his ninja sword. He ended up falling out of the tree before anything happened. We were sitting there. Whoa! We ran out there. Oh, tree. Well, you're a real good ninja. That's why I always show that there, because that always reminds me of him doing that. And then again, next week when I go, I always take bear mace with me. The bear mace works on everything. Not just the skunk ape or the Fouke Monster or Bigfoot. I mean, panthers, everything out there, and bears. You know, we do have bears in Florida. They're not as big as the bears that you have up north, but we do have bears. Panthers are really rare. You know, you almost consider yourself pretty lucky to see a bear. I mean, a panther. So, but I do carry bear mace with me. I've had my son shoot me with it one time because I was stupid enough to let him carry it. And bear mace is expensive. That stuff's like $50, but it works. We were walking across the field with my son. I said, here, hold my bear mace. And we were walking, and I jumped back because I thought it was a snake. It turned out it was an armadillo. When my son just started spraying my crap all over the place and got it all over me, I had to take all my clothes off except my boxers just to get that stuff to stop burning. And he always sit there looking at me, I'm sorry. And that stuff, I mean, it's probably still out there. I mean, that stuff is all over. I mean, and there's the, well, that's the first yellow Jeep I had. The other yellow Jeep I had, got a better one. That's where I put all the Bigfoot paraphernalia all over that stuff. But there's the hovercraft. In fact, that's a picture from Livestock they took right there. I had to get rid of it because in Winter Haven, when I was taking it out, I was getting cited for noise ordinance. I would take it out, I'd go by Legoland, I'd come back, and there the sheriff's going. And I come up there and said, who told off? So after the third time, I said, I'm going to sell it. In fact, I sold it to a gentleman who came all the way from Fort Worth to buy it. I sold it for what I paid for it, so I mean I didn't get any money out of it, but I didn't lose any either. I always tell this again for some of the kids that we have out there that not only is Bigfoot out there, but there's other creatures that we have to deal with. A lot of times when I do take out, I've gone taking scouts out, I make them wear what they call a safety necklace, especially at night. It has a whistle and a flashlight on it. Now this kid here decided to put a little pocket knife on it. I don't know why he wanted a pocket knife, but he did. So I tell him, if you get lost from us or separated, you're to stop and start blowing that whistle and turn that flashlight on. And if you have night vision goggles on, you'll see them out there. You'll be able to pick up on them. But I've never actually lost it. I mean, the kids I've taken out have listened specifically to everything I've told them. I had a gentleman one time who runs a survival class down in Punta Gorda, here in Naples. And he said, Rob, I got a story for you. I was doing some jungle survival with some kids, and then one of the exercises I have a center point, and I send them out in different, with a compass, so they learn how to do what they call an azimuth, if they follow on a degree. And he was sitting there waiting for him to come back, and these two of them come walking back, looking at him like, trying to scare us. And he's going, what are you guys talking about? Having a guy in a gorilla costume out there trying to scare us. And Kevin's like, what are you talking about? He says, yeah, we went down the road path, got to the end, over the side of the creek, and there's some guy in a gorilla costume over there growling at us and stuff. Kevin's like, why would I do that? You guys show me this. So they took him down there and he showed him stuff. And then the boys are like, this isn't the guy in a costume? And he said, this is a jungle survival class. Why would I do this? And they said, well, I mean, was this a pretty cheesy looking gorilla? I said, no, actually, it looked pretty darn good. I was wondering why and it was on the other side of this creek with the fence. And he said it was growling at it and it walked off. So, we went out there. Unfortunately, I couldn't get across the creek to go over that. And I asked Kevin to get in touch with the parents, and the parents said, no, my sons ain't talking. Okay. But I did go to the location, and I did find out there was some sightings out there too. They have a tour bus out there that some people saw it as well. So we always have sightings. I mean, Florida's always got something going on. I went to an area here near Lake Wales. There's a place called Tiger Creek, and we were walking up, and we came across a ranger. Me, in fact, the previous, when you saw me on the canoe, the gentleman, he was with me. And we ran into a ranger, and we told him what we were doing, and he said, yeah, well, if they're out there, this will be a good place for them to be. Wow, rangers usually aren't that cooperative. Usually they say, you're wasting your time. They don't exist. So he then went on to tell us how couple years ago, right where we were kind of at, a couple were up there hiking, and the thing stepped out right in front of them, a large hairy creature. And they said they looked at it, turned around, and hog-tailed it back, and told them, hey, there's a Bigfoot up there. And so we go up there, and the thing about this property is there's no hunting allowed. And a lot of it, you're not even allowed to go off the path. You have to stay on the path. And it's got hogs out there, it's got deer, it's got a big huge Tiger Creek that goes through it. So I mean, it's quite, you know, it meets all the requirements for this animal to be out there. So, in fact, I actually found this shelter, which I could tell was made by somebody trying to do the old, you know, Les Stroud, Bear Grylls thing. But, you know, I get somebody, no, I think Bigfoot made that. No, Bigfoot didn't make it. That's a shelter, human made. I always say, you know, what we do is outside the box, outside the norm. You know, legend tripping. And what does it take to be a legend tripper? Go out and do this stuff. You folks are pretty much got your foot in the door right now, just exploring the interest. You're going to run across people that don't believe it. I drove into a garage one time. Into a gas station. Some boys in a truck right in front of me, and they look, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Bigfoot, huh? You got you looking for Bigfoot, huh?" There ain't no such thing. And just as the guy said it, the driver of the truck leaned over and goes, "My dad saw it." And the boys just like, "My dad saw it on our property." The thing right across the field, and every one of those boys just shut up and just kind of sat back down in the truck. And I walked up to the boy. I said, "What happened? You know, I gave my cards. I'd like to hear your dad's story. I'd really like to find out more about this." And they just didn't like, you know. I mean, we've had them, you know. In fact, near NASA on Merrill Island, there's been sightings out here there. You know. So I mean, we have them all over the place. Ocala National Forest seems to be the big hotbed where we've seen a lot of more sightings. But the problem is, every time I go out there are always hunters. You know, even when I think I'm way out there, there's no, you know, I'll turn around, there'll be a hunter, you know, sitting in a tree stand. So. Any questions about anything? Like I said, my books, they are guidebooks. I'm going to tell you right now, they are guidebooks on how to go look for, you know, all different kinds of cryptids. I did that more or less, and the good thing about this book is it's not all me. When I finished writing it, I threw it out to Lyle Blackburn, I threw it out to Nick Rexford, I threw it out to a bunch of ghost hunters. I said, look at what I put down, tell me if there's anything that I should put down or take out. So, and it is basic, and if you've got a Florida interest in it and stuff, you know, and the new one I just did, again, International Literature. Well, I want to thank you for your time, thank you for South Arkansas, and I really mean that. I really, like I said, I was really stoked I got to come here.